Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the December meeting of the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority Commission. I am Andrew Taherzadeh, Assistant Director of Marketing Communications here at the EDA. I am your moderator for this meeting, which means I will have control over the audio functions of this call, and I will control the slides that will be used during the meeting. At this time, I would like to ask all those on the call to please mute their microphones. Now, I would like to welcome members of the commission to the meeting. Chair Kathy Lang, Vice Chair James Quigley, Secretary Ron Johnson, Treasurer Stephen Partridge, and members Rocky Mitchell, Pallavi Sabu, Joe Vitalige, and Rick Wagner. FCEDA President and CEO Victor Hoskins and Executive Vice President Alex Imes are on the call, as are EDA Counsel Mike Graff, EDA staff members, consultants who represent the EDA in offices overseas and California, and our marketing communications consultants. I would also like to welcome Fairfax County officials who have joined us for the meeting. This meeting is being recorded. Presenting from the FCEDA tonight will be Chair Lang, Sid Banerjee, Chief XM Strategy Officer of Qualtrics, President Hoskins, Director of Market Intelligence, Stephen Tarditi, Executive Vice President, Alex Imes, Director of Talent Initiatives, Michael Batt, and Vice President of Marketing Communications, Alan Fogg. Members of the FCEDA Commission who have questions will have the opportunity to ask questions as they normally would during meetings. If anyone from the public has any questions, please select the chat function at the bottom of the Zoom screen to ask a question, or email Cheryl Martelli of the FCEDA. Cheryl's email address can be found in the chat box. We will not answer questions from the public during the meeting, but we will respond to all questions in writing afterward. With that, I'll ask Chair Lang to begin the agenda. Chair Lang?
Thank you very much, Andrew, and a good evening to everyone and happy holidays. Welcome to our December meeting. We have a great meeting scheduled tonight. In addition to regular agenda items, we're excited to have our guest speaker, Sid Banerjee, who is the Chief XM Strategy Officer at Qualtrics and was CEO of Reston-based software company Clarabridge before Qualtrics acquired it this fall. We're so excited to hear your story. He's going to talk about that process, and we'll talk about last week's exciting news that Qualtrics is creating another 400 jobs here. He also will tell us why he started Clarabridge in Fairfax County and kept it here. So it's a great speaker tonight for us. I'd also like to welcome David Taub of Reston Now, who's with us tonight. Welcome, David. So with that, let's get started. First thing is to approve the minutes of last meeting. May I have a motion to approve the minutes of the November 2021 meeting?
I'll make a motion to approve the metrics.
Thank you, Commissioner Quigley. Is there a second motion?
Second the motion.
Thank you. Was that Commissioner Partridge?
It's me, Kathy. It's Joe.
Oh, I'm sorry. Good. Thank you, Joe. Commissioner Vitalige. Okay. So is there any discussion? So I call the question and Council Graff will do the roll call.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Mitchell. Mr. Johnson.
Present, yes.
Mr. Partridge.
Approved.
Mr. Vigilic.
Aye.
Vice Chair Quigley.
Aye. Approved.
Ms. Salaby. Ms. Hainsworth. Chair Lang.
Aye.
The minutes are approved.
Very good. Thank you. Now I would like to ask Treasurer Partridge to present the financial report.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As you saw in your packet, we are 42% way through the year, and we are about 35% of our way through our budget. So we're a little under budget, but now that we are fully staffed, now that we're there, which is a milestone, thank you, Victor, for that. It's not easy to find good people nowadays. So now that we have a full team, you'll see those expenses kick up a little. A lot of the marketing plan and some of the travel events are going to kick in during the second half of the year. So you'll see more of that drawn down after January 1st. But I think we're on target. And unless anyone has any questions, I think that's our report. Everything's on track.
Great news. Any questions? Thank you. Last fall, we began a series of guest speakers, as you may remember, to provide the commission and staff with various perspectives about a post-COVID-19 economic recovery. These thought leaders will help us provide strategic vision for our future. We kicked off this series with Fairfax County Executive Brian Hill. Since then, we have hosted excellent presentations from area leaders, including Dr. Gregor Washington, president of George Mason University, Dr. Ann Kress, president of Northern Virginia Community College, and Brian Kenner, head of policy at Amazon HQ2. Last month, our very own Rick Wagner spoke about Microsoft's expansion in Fairfax County and Northern Virginia. So with that, I ask our vice chair, Quigley, to please introduce our speaker tonight.
Thank you, Kathy. And I'm so very honored to be able to introduce our speaker for this evening. He is Sid Banerjee. Sid is the Chief XM Strategy Officer at Qualtrics and was the Executive Vice President, Founder, and Chief Strategy Officer at Reston-based Clarabridge, which Qualtrics recently acquired. Mr. Banerjee provides executive leadership and strategic direction and is a well-known expert in customer experience, business intelligence, and speech and text analytics. Over his careers, he's amassed more than 20 years of business intelligence leadership. A founding employee of Tyson-based MicroStrategy, he held executive positions in sales, products, and services. Before joining MicroStrategy, Mr. Banerjee held management positions at Ernst & Young and Sprint International. On the other side of what Sid does and what makes him such an exciting local leader too, is he chairs Go Virginia's Northern Virginia Council. Go Virginia is a bipartisan business-led economic development initiative that is changing the way Virginia's diverse regions collaborate on economic and workforce development activities. Mr. Banerjee was named the Washington Business Journal Most Admired CEO in 2014. I also see that he loves the experience of public transportation. It goes out of his way to use subways and trains in every city. A cute note from our team. I'm so excited to introduce a local friend of mine and local legend when it comes to building a business in Fairfax County, Sid Banerjee. Sid, the floor is yours, my friend.
Thank you, James. And thank you for that very, very kind introduction. And we entrepreneurs need to stick together. So I appreciate the support. So it's been great. And I appreciate knowing you and working with you over the years as well. So I appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Clarabridge story. And as was mentioned a few minutes ago, we did have some very interesting and exciting news that I'll talk about towards the end of the presentation about our decision now that we're part of Qualtrics to really double down on investments and hiring and growth here in the region in Fairfax County. But before I get there, let me just give you a general overview of who we are, who Clarabridge is, and kind of how we came to market here. As you mentioned, I had some experience at a company called MicroStrategy. I'll talk a little bit about the history that led to the creation of this company. And then if you don't mind, I'll give you a quick primer on a fairly esoteric and technical term, a set of concepts around text and conversational analytics, because while it's a little bit complicated, it is how we make our money and how we grow our business. And it's kind of cool to me, and I'm still a nerd at heart. So I'll take a few minutes talking about that. And then I'd like to end on sort of our plans for the future and really what we see as the future of the company, now Qualtrics, here in Fairfax County. So how do we get started? So my background and the background of some of the early founders of the company, I spent about 9 years working at MicroStrategy back before they were a Bitcoin company, when they were a software company. And I say that in jest. I mean, they still have software, of course. But a number of the folks that started at MicroStrategy did develop some fairly high entrepreneurial capabilities and spirit, and there's probably about 20 companies in the region you can trace to that DNA. When I left MicroStrategy in 2001, I joined forces with two other employees, and we started a company called Clarabridge. Clarabridge was focused on providing consulting services to both government and commercial companies that were really looking to really invest in data mining and data analytics technologies. And we grew that company to about 130, 40 people in Falls Church first, and then moved the company out to Reston, which was the foundation for Clarabridge. In 2006, we actually spun a group of people out of Clarabridge to form what became Clarabridge. And the idea behind Clarabridge was, how can we really take advantage of the technologies that were evolving very quickly to understand and analyze not just the data that's in rows and columns, but the conversations and interactions that live in human speech and text and basically unstructured content. And so we created a company called Clarabridge because we were looking to really bridge the divides between what we saw as technology that was very focused on analyzing numbers and information that was contained in documents that was typically just searched, but not really analyzed well. And over a period of about really 3 or 4 years, we built a proof of concept. We then productized it into a platform for text mining. At that point, we spun Clarabridge out from our services company into a separate company, raised local funding from a number of Mid-Atlantic investors at the time, Growtech Ventures, Boulder Ventures, and a company down in Richmond called Harbor Ventures, and ultimately created over a period of about 3 or 4 years the content mining platform that was the foundation of Clarabridge. By 2008, we were very much focused on using that platform to analyze customer interactions and customer data. And the larger megatrend here is that if you think about going back to the early part of the 20th century, manufacturing scale created big manufacturers. Distribution scale created the ability to create big mass merchandising and retailers. Information scale created the ability to create optimizations and global distribution of products and goods. And customer scale, understanding customers at scale, now creates the technology to really create personalized, individualized, and loyalty producing interactions and loyalty at the customer level. And the companies that have sort of evolved over the last 100 years, from manufacturing to distribution to information to now customer expertise, are the companies that compete and that win. And so Clarabridge really is aiming at that age of the customer, which is being able to take advantage of what customers talk about, what they want, what drives loyalty, what drives effectively revenue growth and retention growth, to help companies better understand how to mass customize, mass merchandise, and ultimately mass support with very individual understanding and insights those individual customers. And how do we do that? We basically are working on understanding what people say, what they want, what they do, by understanding the conversations that customers have with companies. Most of the traditional techniques that we have sort of supplanted with Clarabridge are traditional market research, right? You get a bunch of people in a room, you do a focus group, or you maybe send them a survey after a phone call. But for the most part, if you can tap into what customers say when they contact a big company, when they're calling a bank or they're calling a retailer, or when they're interacting over digital or social technologies, and you can abstract those insights into what drives product interest, product loyalty, what you can do to improve a product or improve a service interaction, you can ultimately drive more value and more loyalty from those customer relationships. And we're really focused on trying to understand what customers like, what they want, what they need. And we've been doing it through approaching the interactions as a way of collecting insight on the customers. The typical Clarabridge customer will bring in all of their surveys, all of their conversations from contact centers, all of their information from social interactions that live online, and match that up with information that they have inside their own databases on who's a good customer, who's a new customer, who's a loyal customer, how much does it cost to serve this product or service to a customer. We then take all that data, most of it is unstructured, and we apply AI to basically tease out concepts, interests, interaction, quality standards, and even recommendations from the conversations in the text of companies talking to customers and customers talking online. And then use that information to drive better sales, better servicing, better marketing, better product innovations, and ultimately drive customer retention and customer loyalty. I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into one of the things we believe is an innovation is historically people have sought to use analytics to tease out what I would describe as left brain or logical concepts, right? What do people talk about in terms of topics? We've really been focusing on the right brain, which is really teasing out the unstructured, emotional, human, empathetic markers that come along with customer conversations. Because what we've concluded is if you can understand not just what people talk about, but how they talk about it, what they love, what they hate, what drives loyalty, what drives anger. Those are the things that help you understand what to do better and help you understand what you shouldn't do, right? Because they create negative interactions and negative human responses to the products and services you sell. And I'll provide a very short kind of understanding of that. If you think about, this is something that most people can understand because we're all customers of one sort or another of companies, right? When you have an interaction with a bank or a retailer, if that interaction takes 30 minutes and it's hard and you are not able to solve the problem first by doing it yourself or trying it out on a mobile or website, you're gonna, when you get in touch with a human representative of the bank, you're gonna say, it was really hard to do business with you. I wasted a lot of time and I couldn't be successful. There you're providing what's described as effort language. And so high effort is often a predictor. If you have a lot of high effort interactions with a company, you're less likely to do business with that company over time, right? If you continue to have interactions and those interactions continue to not produce a result you want, you move from having high effort feelings to getting angry. You display emotion, right? You display sort of animated sort of feelings about the business or about the brand. And that emotion and the intensity of that emotion is also highly predictive of you're going into the red zone. You're likely going to be a defector from that customer. Now, most companies today think about customer analytics and experience by asking a survey question, right? How likely are you to do business with this business? Or asking you to just basically score on a positive to negative scale, how positive something was. Sentiment scores, survey scores are useful, but they tend to be very sparse because very few people nowadays fill out surveys. And they also tend to be lagging indicators. So what we try to do with Clarabridge is really tap into the language of effort, the language of emotion, and the language of sentiment that lives everywhere customers are talking about companies and products and brands. And when we do that, we help our customers better tap into the things that really matter and act more efficiently and act without having to bug customers and ask them for feedback with a survey. And there's a lot of value when you do that at scale because you ultimately are being able to understand things more quickly and act on things more quickly. There's some nuance to how we do things, and I'll just take a few minutes to describe because it's kind of interesting. So imagine you're on a phone call with a bank, let's just call it Clarabridge, and you say, hey, the tax FAQs are confusing, but planning is easy. Easy is a positive word. I'll score that with a +2. If I say confusing, that's -2. If I say something is too confusing or way too confusing, that's more negative, or very easy is more positive. And when you do that for every interaction, every topic that's in a conversation over a chat or a phone call, we now have a really deep understanding of what we're doing well as a company and what we aren't doing well. And when you scale that out over hundreds or thousands or millions of customers, you now have a really interesting big data understanding of what you should be fixing and what you should keep doing well. That's essentially the value of what Clarabridge does. You know, we also can talk about things in a very kind of nuanced way. The word wonderful is positive, but if someone puts a smiley face emoji or a side-eye emoji after the word, on the wonderful with the side-eye is sarcasm. So sarcasm is going to be scored negatively. And we sort of trained our AI to understand all the different ways words are used and that not every word means the same thing depending on context. So a super sick app is actually a positive thing, but if something makes me sick, the word sick there is negative. And we've done a lot of work to make sure that we figure these things out. We're also able to understand emotion, intent. Effort's another example. When I say something is confusing, that's negative. Impossible is very negative. Ugly is negative sentiment, but not negative effort. An ugly website might still be easy to use. So we would score that as neutral. And then ultimately, when we see things like easy or registration being fast, we're able to now help companies understand the things that are over into the orange zone are things that they should be fixing, because that's ultimately having an impact on how easy it is to do business with a company. We've actually trained literally hundreds of models for industries like banking, retail, insurance, healthcare, e-commerce companies. telecom and media businesses, but we also give our customers the ability to build their own rules, to create their own interesting insights, and then that data can be used to create even more kind of advanced analytics going forward. And I'll skip through these here, but what our customers love about what Clarabridge can do is they really have a toolkit for understanding and acting on customer insight. And it becomes something that they can then deploy easily to their customers in what we describe as a low code way. You don't have to code, you don't have to be a data scientist, you don't have to be an AI programmer. We've essentially done the hard work of really understanding language, tapping into it and using it in a way that's actionable and sort of insightful for businesses. And then ultimately, because we're connected to a wide range of data sources, both the sources companies have, as well as the sources that live in social media and in contact centers, we unlock the value of the conversation, if you will. And that information can be deployed not just in English, but across 23 different languages. And we like to say plus emojis. So if you want to understand happy faces and so on, we treat that as a language as well. So our customers are in fact quite global. And the use cases are, again, across many different industries. The other thing I'll mention is that it's important to drive technology innovation to not just market need, but to value creation. And one of the things we do when we deploy is we say, we're going to help you make your interactions shorter, right? Shorter interactions to buy something or to service something, make your customers happy, and they also save money for the businesses. We also shorten journeys. The modern enterprise often requires you to be able to understand how a customer interacts with you online, through chats, through chatbots, through phone calls, in store. And so ultimately, if those journeys can be short, again, they're productive for the customer and efficient for the company. And over time, we also are focused on things like chatbot innovation, digital innovation, really helping companies to take advantage of new technologies, but not create more confusing interactions, but more efficient interactions. I was just actually sent a link to a Washington Post article. Joe Biden actually yesterday, or even today, I think, announced he wants to make customer experience transformation a priority for government agencies, which I found quite interesting. Most of our customers are in the commercial space, but there's an opportunity to do this in the government space. And the fact that we're here in the DC area and Northern Virginia, which I think positions us uniquely well to help citizen-intensive organizations, think CMS, CIS, IRS, any organization that has millions of customers, or in this case, citizens, trying to get in and out of government agencies in an efficient way. So there's a huge opportunity to do that, not just in the commercial space, but even in the government space going forward. These are the kinds of companies we work with, right? You can see banking, retail, healthcare, consumer goods, et cetera. But really what they all have in common is millions of customers, billions of interactions, and technology that confuses the heck out of customers that needs to be rationalized and optimized to create good experiences. And that's what we do. The last thing I'll mention just before we open it up for any questions is that as folks mentioned before in the introductions, in July, it was announced that Qualtrics, which is a $1 billion company based out of Salt Lake, actually Provo, Utah, acquired Clarabridge. They acquired us for a relatively healthy sum of about $1.1 billion. And the reason they acquired us was really kind of contained in this video. I'll just play it right now. This is the data that Clarabridge has been ingesting for our customers over the last 5 years. In 18 surveys were the primary source our customers were analyzing, but we saw that going into conversations was really going to change the market for us and change the business. In 2019, we started really ingesting and analyzing at scale speech conversations. These are the conversations in contact centers when people call a contact center for sales or service support. And in 2020, even when COVID hit, we saw chat, which are the kind of the digital conversations, move from 5th place to 2nd place over a period of about 9 months. And we became one of the preeminent providers of what is now described as conversational analytics, not just understanding a tweet or a review, but a two-way conversation between a customer and a company representative. And one of the big things that was interesting to Qualtrics was that they have been historically known as a leading provider of feedback platforms, survey analytics, actioning information and actions when someone gives you a good or bad review on a survey platform. They saw the future, as we did, in market research, customer experience, as really being led by conversational analytics. And the coming together of our two companies really actually brings together a leader in experience management through traditional techniques of collecting feedback with our technique, which is really listening and analyzing to conversations at scale. The last thing I'll mention is, this was a truly strategic acquisition. They did not buy us to sort of create overlap and efficiency. They bought us to buy into a new market and a new segment. And a great show of support of that investment came out just last Friday when they announced that we're going to move from the other side of the toll road. This is actually Wheelie over here on the right. We're currently on the other side of the metro station in Commerce Park to Reston Station here, which is where the Founding Farmers is. And it was just announced that we are going to be basically moving into about an 85,000 square foot location in 3 floors on this building. And Qualtrics is committed to hiring and growing our business by over 400 jobs over the next 5 years. The majority of those hires are going to be building out our AI and machine learning capabilities, but also expanding our ability to sell, service, and market in the broader DC community across all products that we sell, now Qualtrics and Clarabridge combined. So we're very excited. It's been a great run over the last 15 years since we started Clarabridge. We found that there's just a lot to offer in this region. The talent. I had a lot of great experiences being part of MicroStrategy in the 90s, seeing the kind of talent we could attract here to Northern Virginia. And we've continued to that tradition of really building and growing our core technology function, marketing function, finance function, and a lot of our sales function for the whole East Coast is based here in Reston. And this is going to allow us to really grow the advanced analytics, the machine learning and AI capability in particular, that critical mass that we need to build the business, not just here in the region, but around the globe. So with that, I will open it up for any questions you guys have.
First, thanks for sharing your story, Sid, and congratulations. Wow. I mean, Clara, and I remember from Clarabridge days too. I was going to say Clarabridge, but the Clarabridge story is certainly one of those experiences of a successful venture in MicroStrategy starting to spin people out, which we see in this area too. Maybe MicroStrategy's greatest gift to the area is not their own growth, but it's the people who created companies from MicroStrategy, which is how you create these ecosystems of success.
You're absolutely right, James. I mean, you mentioned Matt Calkins. I mean, Matt and I were colleagues at MicroStrategy before he started Appian. So that's just a great supporting point there. Yeah.
Yeah. And to that effect too, I turn it over to the team for their greater questions too. But obviously, I have 2 quick questions for you.
Yeah.
One is, as you look at this area, and obviously passionate from a Go Virginia perspective and starting to think about the regions working together, what are we missing? What do we need to continue to do as a region to develop our ability to differentiate in this very tumultuous, interesting time of cities and countries competing with each other for not only workforce, but for companies like yours? What are we missing right now? What are we doing really well as a differentiator to get companies like you to grow and start and grow and build here?
Yeah, it's a great question, and I have a lot of opinions on this topic, which I'll try to keep short for the time that we have. But I mean, I think it's funny you mentioned the interest I have in mass transit. I've traveled all over the world for both MicroStrategy and now Clarabridge, and I do love taking mass transit. One of the reasons we actually located in Reston was at the time we knew the Wheelie Reston line was going to end right at our office, and we believed, and this is a strong opinion I had, that being on Metro was going to allow us to attract people both in the county and outside the county that could commute easily, and it's proven to be the case. We hire a lot of folks out of college. They come in, they live closer into town, but they commute out because they can easily. So I think being able to attract young talent into a vibrant area, Northern Virginia and the larger DMV is a very vibrant area for attracting young talent is important. The other thing is infrastructure is super important. Educational infrastructure, technology infrastructure. I have lived in the Fairfax County region since I was in high school. I went to Langley back in the 80s. And I actually think the region continues to be world-class in terms of infrastructure. The fact that Amazon's investing, Virginia Tech's investing, I think reinforces that view. Ironically, it's going to create more competition for talent, which is, obviously a challenge for us. But I do think a rising tide lifts all boats. And our focus is on building out our recruiting infrastructure, building out our differentiation on why a company like Clarabridge, now Qualtrics, is an interesting place to work. Not quite as big as Amazon, right? But maybe more agile, more innovative. We can differentiate because I think we have a unique recruiting value proposition. And I think that the people you have here can be more loyal than in the West Coast. They can be able to build careers here. I think we have a great place to build a life, which I think is unique. And we can always complain about traffic and transportation, and we have all those issues, but it's a whole lot better than the West Coast, a whole lot better than Atlanta, a whole lot better than a lot of parts of the country. And as long as we keep focusing on building out that infrastructure, I think we have a winning combination.
It's awesome to hear you hiring the people here too and committed to that. And
yeah,
I guess through COVID, organizations, including Amazon and Facebook and some others, starting to open up their parameters of where people can hire. Amazon's new policy is if you can travel to an office in a day, they'll hire you there.
And work there. Yes, exactly.
And now with the tax, Amazon was always very nervous about where they could be taxed, but now that's obviously gone. So they're being taxed everywhere. They're hiring people everywhere. How does that change Qualtrics' strategy about hiring? Or do you continue to hope and strive to hire those 400 people here versus?
It's a really good question. I mean, nobody can predict if people will return to the office forever or when. We're betting a bit on the idea that, in fact, as the pandemic resides, people will see value in being in an office environment. And to be fair, I mean, the 400 people we hire are really the 400 people we intend to hire in Fairfax County, in the region.
Right.
I would not be surprised if we hire more than that, but they might not come to the physical office, right? Yeah. But the fact that technology, and I'm sure you've seen this too, James, in your business, but technology can be developed virtually. There's no question, right? But there is value in culture. There is value in continuity and in being part of a team that you really want to be part of for the long term. And I think that does come from working in a physical office, or at least being able to go to a physical office from time to time. And so that's the bet we have, that we do want to have a nexus, and we like the physical location that we have here in Ruston.
I agree. It's hard to develop culture remotely. I think we're maybe learning it, but as tech companies, but it's certainly very hard to do. And collaborating creatively is hard to do that way.
That's right.
Let me turn it over to the rest of the team. How are our commissioners? Any other questions?
I'll jump in. Sid, thank you for that presentation. I'm kind of a stats geek. I love analyzing things. I was just in a meeting today. My HR person was telling me, here's our daily pulse poll, and this is what it says. And I'm looking at the data, I'm going, I don't see any correlation in any of this stuff. and it's just funny to watch as people, I don't consider myself a professional. I'm an amateur in this stuff too, but I think I know enough to know that there's a science to it, and it has to be applied right. I really applaud the conversational analytics. I hate taking surveys.
Yeah.
I'm sure that there are better ways to do it than other ways, but the idea of just taking the natural, like what's coming out of people's brains, that just really resonates with me. So thanks.
I appreciate that, Rick. It is something that we believed was going to change the way people think about customer experience, and the market's proved us right. I mean, I think surveys are never going to disappear, but there's several trends that I think are unassailable. One is that younger people don't like to fill out surveys. Younger people also are far more interested in posting content online, and people don't want to spend a lot of time on phone calls, right? So there's a very high alignment to, if you can help companies improve their experiences, shorten the time they spend on high cost, low value interactions, everybody benefits. And you can't quantify that from a survey. You can quantify that from conversational analytics, both before, during, and after you make changes. And so we've been able to show really high alignment to return on investment. When you invest in a solution like ours, we generate positive returns. And that's magic to the CFO's ears, and it's magic to the customer marketing and salespeople's ears too, because they're able to make more money and save more customers. So,
Did I have a question? First of all, I just love this. I'm going to call it an industry sector. I don't know if you would refer to it as an industry sector at this point, but it's so fascinating. So a question I have for you is around the technology
Mhm.
skill set that you're looking for. Do we produce enough of the AI technologists that you need, the types of people you're going to need now and in the future? And if we're not, what do we need to do?
Yeah, it's a really, I think it's an important question, Kathy. The short answer is in some areas, yes, in other areas, not enough, right? So I think what we do with Clarabridge and Qualtrics right now is we are hiring both developers that are building out the technology and kind of creating the AI models and training essentially the computers to be able to be smarter and recognize more things. That's one type of skill set. The other type of skill set are customer-facing consultants and people that are sort of tuning and deploying the solution actually in the field to our customers. That second group of people are generally just smart people that can be taught how to be able to take a core technology and optimize it. That type of people, I think, or person can be easily found in a lot of the local colleges up and down Virginia. When we hire folks from Tech, from UVA, from Maryland, and we promote them, we train them in what we call our Clarabridge Bootcamp. The people that build the core technology, though, they're hard to find. There's no question. And I think this is a STEM problem. It's science, technology, math problem, both at the high school leading into college. We need more people going into this field to actually build the core technology and to continue to evolve it and expand it. I mean, we want to be able to expand this into not just text, not just audio, but into video, right? Into image processing, into all the things that live in the multimedia world that we live in today. And that requires that kind of advanced programming tech talent to build the product. Once we build it, we actually can employ a lot of people. Part of AI is training AI to be smarter in the field. And there are a lot of good people in this region. That's actually one of the nice things about hiring and getting people in Northern Virginia. Between the local colleges and even the regional Mid-Atlantic, there's a lot of good talent. But we need to focus on core AI. That's a challenge. And James was talking about my role in Go Virginia. A big part of what Go Virginia is about is really building that technology pipeline of people that are part of building technology organizations. We desperately need more of that talent in the region. And it's not just the region, by the way, it's the whole country. This is a national problem. Right? But I think we're better than a lot of places, but we're still not perfect. Right.
Thank
Hey,
you.
Sid,
Yeah.
have you considered apprenticeships at all as looking at non-traditional talent to kind of train your own?
Yeah, it's a good question. We haven't yet. We do have an active internship program. We hire interns every year, and those internships become sort of feeders to our full-time jobs as well. And we're probably going to expand the internship programs now that we're part of Qualtrics, to be honest. But we have not done formal apprenticeship programs, and it's something that's worth looking into, I think.
Thanks.
He said, first of all, thank you for the amazing presentation. I thought it was really insightful. And as my company is a customer of yours, I know firsthand our data analytics folks at Capital One really use your technology to help pivot during the
Thank
pandemic.
you for your support. Exactly.
No, to support it. I guess one of the questions I had for you is, you chose to open up your business in Northern Virginia, and you have contributed to the ecosystem of corporate entities and corporate citizens that really rely on one another. And I'm struck by the number of businesses that you partner with and that you hold as customers that hold Northern Virginia as home. And so anything more you can say about the ecosystem here in Northern Virginia and Fairfax County in particular that allows you to actually bank that business, pun intended, but also kind of create those relationships so that you can create that ecosystem of entrepreneurship, economic development, vitality.
Yeah, it is interesting. I mean, I think, and partly as I've gotten older and I've gotten more connected into not just the tech ecosystem, but the business ecosystem, it has been easier to kind of traverse those sort of pathways, if you will, to the businesses here in the Mid-Atlantic and specifically Northern Virginia. I will be honest with you, though, when we started Clarabridge, we cast a wide net. We thought that our typical customer was a commercial enterprise that could be anywhere in the US. And so one of the things that we did focus on was hiring enterprise salespeople, which was, again, a skill that I kind of developed working at MicroStrategy. So I would say that the combination of working for a local company that had national footprint did kind of prime me to do the same thing with Clarabridge. As we have gotten bigger, though, I think we have had much more investment in really building out customer relationships here, I would say in the Mid-Atlantic, but also heading down into Richmond, companies like CarMax heading into, Maryland with folks like T Rowe and others. So we do cast a wide net. And what we find is the relationships we've developed in the business community do help us. But to be very clear, we are a national footprint company, and we actually even more so now are looking to scale internationally now that we're part of Qualtrics. So.
But I think that's actually part of the mentality, though, that you can open a business here in Fairfax County and you can have access to the world. And so I think that is just a real true testament to what you all are doing and the imprint you're leaving here and the example you're setting. So kudos to you all.
Yeah, and I do appreciate, for what it's worth, being close to Dulles Airport doesn't hurt, even though no one seems to be traveling right now for COVID. But I am, before COVID, I was on a plane practically every week or two, meeting our customers. So being highly connected, I think, matters a lot. And we are in this region for sure. Yeah.
Thank you so much for being with us tonight. And your story is so exciting, and we look forward to hearing what happens in the future. So thank you so much, Sid.
Thank you for the opportunity. And thank you, by the way, for supporting our expansion. Victor, a call out to you. I know, there were a lot of conversations with Qualtrics, to figure out where do we really want to double down. And I was very hopeful we were going to make this commitment. It wasn't 100% in my hands anymore, but we all did the right thing, and we appreciate your support as a county. So thank you. And as media. Yeah.
Congratulations on that. Thank you.
All right.
James, any final comments?
No, certainly great to hear Sid's story. And this story is one of our showcases too, of not just recruiting a company from out, but building it here, right? And it's multi too, because it's a microstrategy component, and Sid's done a great job of building a very valuable, successful company and an important arena too.
Amazing. Thank you. All right, so we will move on. Our next agenda item is a county bond revenue matter. Consideration of the adoption of a resolution authorizing the issuance of transportation contract revenue refunding bonds, Route 28 project series 2022A. Here to present about the resolution are our counsel, as well as Joe LaHyatt from the Fairfax County Department of Management and Budget. Mike, please take the floor.
Oh, thank you, Madam Chair. This is similar in many respects to the county revenue bond financing that we assisted on a few meetings ago, and the resolution that's being presented this evening for your consideration is substantially similar to that resolution, and it provides that the EDA assist the county as a conduit issuer of revenue bonds, in this case to permit the county to refinance its Route 28 tax exempt financing on favorable terms. And as you mentioned, we do have Joe LaHyatt from the county with us again, and appreciate very much Joe taking the time to come before the EDA. And I think Joe has a small handful of slides that he'll run through to describe to the EDA what the county is achieving here with respect to these Route 28 refunding bonds.
Good evening, board. Joe LaHyatt, the Department of Management and Budget. Thank you for all having me back here. I've got a few slides I'll go through as efficiently as I can, Chair Lang, if that's okay. Whoever's steering on the EDA side, we'll head on to the next slide. Just as background, as Mike had noted, I was here back in October with you all. I appreciate the fact on the left-hand side of the slide here, we went forward with a combination of refinancings and a new money project. The first one you see there, a stormwater wastewater facility, which we designated as the county's first ever green bond. That sale went fantastic. We added some new investors to our traditional municipal bond base, and a whole series of refinancings combined generated us about $18 million of net present value. So we view that as a huge, huge success. And we thank you for your approval in that respect. When we go down a bond route with county facilities, you can see for the most part, it's your base real estate taxes, otherwise known as the county's general fund, that are paying that debt service back. On the other side of the slide is why I'm here tonight. We have gone forward at various times in the past, asking for your approval to consider various transportation projects and the financings associated with them. And for the most part, the debt service is paid on commercial and industrial properties with a surcharge on their real estate tax bill. and actually a couple of parking garages where we pledged parking fees to pay back the debt on that. And I thought, if anything, this tied back exactly with the prior presentation from Sid. As you saw the slide he showed at the Wheeling Reston Metro Rail East. Back in 2011, we as county staff came to you all and your prior members to ask for approval to finance that parking garage. Ultimately, what was at the time a very modest kiss and ride lot is now transferred into assessed value of several $100 million. And I think the fact that we can attract Class A top-notch talents type Qualtrics, Microsoft, Google, the whole 9 yards, as you all know in your daily lives, I think proves that we've made an incredible investment there. And like I said, the ability to provide a parking garage, which we were asked to do in terms of phase one, has just been fantastic. So an attempt to kind of tie this all in tonight. But really, we're here tonight on the next slide for the Route 28 tax district, a joint tax district that dates back to the late 80s between Fairfax and Loudoun County, where landowners essentially said, we didn't want to wait in line anymore for state funding to improve the road. So they came together, formed a petition and said, we want these widenings and these changes, the interchanges to occur. And they did so by a petition, which you can see the boundaries here roughly from Route 50 on the Fairfax side, way up to Route 7 on the Loudoun side, and the various parcels that are captured in there along the way. On the next slide, in terms of just further background, there is a tax rate, as I noted, landowners pay annually. It cannot exceed 20 cents per $100 of assessed value. It's currently at 17 cents, so about 3 cents under the max. In terms of annual guidance, you've got 4 members from Fairfax and 4 members from Loudoun boards, coupled with the chair or his or her designee from the Commonwealth Transportation Board to give that added input and due diligent review on an annual basis. So before the board, before that commission on an annual basis, I provide financial updates to them, coupled with VDOT, who gives them a snapshot of where things stand from a construction perspective. And again, if anyone can recall in terms of years ago where that road was, there were interchanges with lights. It was a long struggle to get up and down. Not to say it's perfect right now, but it's come a long way. And suffice it to say, we financed several $100 million within this district from this EDA board approval, to essentially go from 2 lanes to 6 lanes, upgrading 3 intersections and 10 segregated interchanges that have helped move traffic much, much faster than they used to. And I think we're at a pretty proud moment right now. We're back in March earlier this year. VDOT announced that they completed full construction in this tax district, which again started back in the late 80s. And here we are now, fast forward a true significant amount of changes occurred there. On next slide. So we've come to you several times before, back in 2003 and 2004, to make a kickstart on 6 of the 10 interchange projects. We refinanced them back in 2012. And here we are right now, approaching 2022, and we can refinance them again. So that's what we're asking to do right now tonight. 6 of those 10 interchange projects we'd like to refinance. And call it a few years from now, maybe in 2026, we had 2 separate series of bonds, the series 07s and 08s, which we refinanced in 2016. And I would fully expect us to be back again in 2026 to refinance those bonds as well too. So like I said, just taking advantage of a good bond callable opportunities. And really our goal is debt service savings. On the next slide, just to give you, again, some further context of where things were versus where they are now. We started off with modest values in this district. It was all built on speculation. I just think here, back in 2000, less than $4 billion. Fast forward right now, we're at about $14 billion. Fairfax carried the weight in the first several years, obviously heavy on cybersecurity, the role of the NRO and other various defense contractors and the feds in the region. But suffice it to say, I think the Loudoun side of the contract has increased drastically in the last couple of years by obviously the data centers on their side of the border. So suffice to say, I think you can see with the increased values there, that correlates to the direct spinoff, which you'll see on the next slide in terms of the tax district revenues. It's assessed value times that 17-cent tax rate, which generates the revenues you can see here. So roughly in the most recent year, about $23 million in tax revenues, which I think, again, just based on those data centers that have increased drastically in Loudoun, that's put a huge spike in revenue in the last several years. And those revenues are what we use to pay the debt back. We've got a little bit of a margin on an annual basis of those revenues versus the debt. And we've actually had several years of excess revenues. And those excess revenues have been put to pretty good use. As opposed to having to take out additional financings, we just took that cash and funded projects, covered design, covered construction. And like I said, I think anyone knows cash is king, and the ability to kind of knock those projects out, having to take on more debt has been a huge gain for this district. On slide 39, just gives you a snapshot of where the current debt profile is of this district. Once all the debt is paid off, as we plan right now in 2037, this district goes away. We've got a little bit of a dip here between 28 and 32, just based on some phasing out and some reshuffling of some state debt issued by the CTB, but roughly about $18 million in debt over the course of the next couple of years. But again, suffice to say, we generate about $23 million in tax revenues at current value. So that excess cash, we're actually thinking we will take on an annual basis and just sweep it and do some partial payoffs of that outstanding debt right now, which in turn can then reset and lower the tips of that debt service on an annual basis. Since there's really no other purpose right now, since all construction's done, let's pay off debt in the most expeditious, fastest manner we can. And on slide 40, in terms of where we think we are right now, based on a current view of the market, we can get about $8 million net present value savings. And what's that translate to annually? About $760,000, or about a half a penny in that tax district. So I think the question begins, obviously, where do values go in the future? I think a lot of us on this call want to know, how do commercial values flush out over the course of the next couple of years? If we can go into the market, get some refi savings and lock that in, lower our debt service numbers, I think that helps position us really well as we move into the future to do all we can. And again, like I said, this is all paid for by commercial industrial property owners in this tax district. There's no residential impact. So I think an ability to give them some relief and just properly position this district for the future, I think really puts us in a good position. But a pretty good example, obviously, of two counties working together for the betterment of infrastructure, and landowners who took a risk and came forward, were willing to self-tax. But I think the results, as you can see here, have been pretty remarkable. And on the next slide, the last here, last Tuesday, both the Fairfax board and the Loudoun board approved respective resolutions to move forward with this deal. We're here tonight for you all's consideration of the same. Our goal would be early in the calendar year 2022, get before the rating agencies, ask for presentations and review of that. There's one final sign off needed by the state board in mid-January, and then we would start marketing this at the end of January and have that deal priced the week of January 31st. These bonds actually stand one notch below the AAA level. So they are AA1 by Moody's and AA+ by both S&P and Fitch. Pretty remarkable. I think it stands to say that it's really well received based on the financial profiles of this district and both the counties that back up on the both sides from Fairfax and the Loudoun perspective. So a pretty good story to tell, but Madam Chair, I'll stop if there's any questions from you and the board members.
So let me ask for a motion to approve the bond resolution as presented. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Thank you, Commissioner Wagner. Is there a second?
Second, Commissioner Partridge.
Thank you very much. So is there any discussion? Are there any questions?
Madam Chair, I do have just one quick question here. I think that council can answer this. And Joe, it's really nice to see this is morphed from the year 2000 to where it is. As you recall, there was a lot of ambiguity about this on our part, right? When we were, because we didn't understand it, I think is what the problem was back then. So it's really nice to see these fabulous numbers. But I would like for council to quickly look at page 3 of the resolution. Specifically, it talks about the delegation of authority. And could you walk through that very briefly as to what that really means?
Yeah, sure. Happy to do that, Dr. Johnson. So as is typical in a bond resolution under our revenue bond program, what the resolution is meant to do this evening is to provide what we would call a parameters approval of the financing. So it establishes some parameters around things like the maximum term to maturity of the bonds, the maximum interest rate on the bonds, the maximum par amount of the bonds. And within those parameters, the officers of the authority are authorized to work with Joe and me and with Joe's counsel, the bond counsel for the county, to complete the documents, which are already, frankly, in substantially final form as we speak this evening, but to approve any kind of additions and completions of the documents, and then move to the settlement of the transaction and execute the closing signatures for the transaction. And that's what that delegation of authority that you're referencing in the resolution refers to.
Okay, thanks, Mike and Madam Chair for that. I just want to point out, though, that in terms of who has the delegation, the secretary is left off. Is there any particular reason for that?
That's an oversight on my part, and I think it's important to have you be part of that delegation of authority, Dr. Johnson. And I think if the mover of the motion would accept an amendment to correct that Scrivener's error, I'd propose to include the secretary as one of those officers, and I'll make sure that the final copy of the resolution includes that. And I thank you for catching that oversight on my part.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And not me personally, but the office of secretary.
Certainly.
Yeah.
Yes,
sure.
sir.
Okay. Thank you, Madam Chair.
So Commissioner Wagner, will you accept that modification?
I accept.
Thank you. All right, so we have a motion. We have a second motion, I think, that was made. And so I will call to question and ask the council to do the roll.
Certainly, Madam Chair. Mr. Wagner.
Aye.
And Mr. Wagner, I neglected to ask you about your vote on the minutes at the top of the meeting. I was rushing around. I apologize. Would you like to record a vote on the minutes?
I vote aye.
Thank you, Rick. I appreciate that very much. Sorry for the oversight. Ms. Hainsworth. Ms. Sabu. Mr. Vigilic.
Aye.
Mr. Partridge.
Aye.
Mr. Mitchell.
Aye.
Dr. Johnson.
Aye.
Vice Chair Quigley.
Aye.
Chair Lang.
Aye.
The bond resolution as corrected is approved.
Thank you. Great. And
And
great
thank you,
to
Joe,
see.
for joining us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Thank you
Thank you all
so
for your
much,
support.
Joe.
We appreciate it. Thank you so much. Have a good night, everyone.
And thank you for an excellent presentation. So thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you.
Great.
Okay. In January, we will continue our series of guest speakers. We will hear from Blake Hall, founder and CEO of ID.me, a company based in Tysons that provides online identity verification services, and this year became a unicorn based on the company's valuation. In February, we'll hold the annual board retreat. As you may remember, it should be on your calendar. We're going to focus the retreat on strategic initiatives moving forward. I'm working with the president and CEO and the vice chair on the agenda, and we will be getting that out to you shortly. Several other items. I want to thank all of you for participating in the Board of Supervisors meetings. We're near completion. I believe we have Supervisor Lusk to complete in mid-December, on December 15th. But I think these are really useful conversations, and we've captured those priorities of the different supervisors, and we will present them at the January meeting and have a discussion. So once again, thank you for spending your time and energy and attending those sessions. I found them very useful, and am excited to continue to build a strong partnership with our Board of Supervisors. So with that, I am going to turn it over to our President Hoskins.
Thank you so much, Chair Lang. And I got to tell you, I really enjoyed Joe's presentation. That was amazing. That was really amazing. And to see the change in values and just the refunding strategy that they've been using to capture that net present value and accelerating, payments by going directly to use that excess cash to pay off projects directly. Wow, that's a beautiful thing for people who like finance. Next slide. And this has been a busy month. We've had a really fantastic opportunity, a number of things, having the opportunity to really sit down with the folks from George Mason University, actually with their consultants, Attain, and talk to them about George Mason's strategy for their innovation campus and really their strategy overall for the region and how that plays into the work that we're doing. It really was a great opportunity for discussion, and I hope that the input is valuable to them. We'll continue to work. I sit on the President's Innovation Committee right now, so I have the opportunity to see what other people said. I'm looking forward to that. But we have some great things, I believe, coming out of George Mason, in particular, their relationship with Northern Virginia Community College. That has been a real highlight, and I think it's going to continue to be something that we rely on really to meet the needs of our businesses in this region. You know, going through a degree program these days takes too long. Next slide, please. We've had the opportunity to interact with Dulles on their master plan. It was a great opportunity. Alex Imes, participated in this. You'll hear from him later on in this presentation. I think that they're on the right track for the future. Some really exciting things coming out of the ground. And literally, as we reopen next year, I think people are going to be pleased to see the outcomes. The biggest thing, of course, is that they received the, what do they call it? The substantial completion certification for the facility at the airport for the metro. That was a big deal. That was an important point. How it unwinds in the future, of course, we do not know, but it definitely is on the path, on the glide path to take off. Next slide, please. I had the opportunity to be the keynote speaker at the annual meeting for the Northern Virginia Black Chamber. It was an opportunity really to talk to a lot of entrepreneurs from various industries, but in addition to that, to talk about the great programs that the county and actually the regional organizations have really put out for minority-owned businesses. And there were a lot of businesses in that room that had taken advantage of those programs, which I was really excited to see. In addition to that, they were kind enough to give me a recognition award for our organization's support of their work in the last year. They have grown substantially. When I first met the folks running the chamber, there were 25 members. They're now over 200 members. And that was in the last 24 months. So through COVID, they really have expanded. And a lot has to do with Sheila Johnson. She's just done a fabulous job. I'm sorry, Sheila Dixon. She's just really done a great job as their executive director. They really needed a full-time executive director, and it shows in the numbers. Next slide, please. We continue to do very interesting things in terms of working with companies, moving through change. And actually, I'm going to turn this one over to Alex because Alex was the one that really worked on this. Alex?
Thank you, Victor. Yes, so this program occurred just late last week, and we had a chance to sit down with some company leaders from Northern Virginia and talk about company culture and what would be the right tone and amenities and environment to not only to bring employees back to the office, but to have what were the keys to successful business operations in kind of the new paradigm. So it was about an hour program. It's very conversational and interactive. And I was one of the panelists and just talked about not only how we've done some things at the EDA, but what we've also heard from companies about what's been successful. And clearly, many companies are listening and incorporating, some of the different ways of coming to work. And it's something that, it's just going to be different going forward, but in our case, different is good. I think we have the right types of companies here and the right workplaces to bring people back.
Next slide, please. So speaking of company culture, so we actually had a luncheon this week. As a matter of fact, last Friday, we had a luncheon, and it was a treat, my treat to the staff. It was my gift to them for the holidays. We met at the Tower Club for lunch, about 31 of us, 32 of us, which was really fantastic. 3 of our employees had never really met the other employees. They had been hired during COVID. And, the only way you're going to build culture is by meeting people and getting to know them. Fortunately, our staff is 100% vaccinated, so we felt very safe for meeting together, and it really turned out to be a very nice opportunity to see everybody. Some people I had not seen in 3 dimensions in a year and a half, and some 2 years. So it's really been a long time, and it's been a long time coming for all of us. So we're excited about that. We're doing the hybrid transition back. Everyone is still coming in 2 days a week, days of their choice, that they've worked out with their supervisors. But maybe sometime toward the end of next month and sometime in January, we may go to more days. But right now, we're going to stay at 2 days because it seems to be working. And also, the Omicron virus is kind of causing us to a little bit of pause. Next slide, please. So I want to turn this over to Stephen Tarditi to talk a little bit about what's going on in market intelligence. Stephen?
Very much, Victor, and good evening, commissioners. Let's take a look at where Fairfax County is in its economic recovery. And first, we'll start out with the good news. The unemployment rate is still trending towards pre-pandemic levels as we went down to 2.4% in October, down from 2.7% in November. This is actually a quarter of the pre-pandemic high and compares favorably not only at a regional level, but nationally. In fact, among counties with over 1 million residents, Fairfax County ranks as the second lowest in the nation, which is incredible and just shows how quickly we've rebounded compared to some of our peers. And a major factor in this quick employment recovery is the share of jobs in retail and accommodation and food services and what that weighs versus more of the office-based industries. About 13% of our workforce resides in these two industries, where you typically see around between 16 to 20% trending in that accommodation, food services, and retail trade in our peer metros and counties. The office market, on the other hand, is lagging behind employment as the vacancy rate continues to climb. As you see in Q3, we're up to 16.9%. These figures provided by CoStar. This is expected to continue, this increase in office vacancy, into early 2022, but many experts in the industry expect leasing activity to ramp up following a spike that they're now observing in touring activity across the county and office tenants currently. So I think with this, we're already starting to see this inflection where we might begin to see a recovery in office. And we're already seeing this with recent announcements between Qualtrics and Peraton, which we'll hear about more later. But that I'll turn it back to you, Victor. Thank you.
So we've continued to do our collaboration work. This, of course, is extraordinarily important. We're working obviously with our Northern Virginia partners, but we are also working very closely with our partners, growing to be partners in suburban Maryland and Washington, D.C. It's still very complicated, but we're pushing ahead, and we actually have been working on some projects with them specifically in the area, as we mentioned before, quantum and hydrogen. We did put a proposal into Build Back Better. Unfortunately, we weren't down selected, but that is not going to deter us. We're just going to take a different approach. We still have the university partners and the consortium very interested in it. Next slide, please. Let me turn this over to Mike Batt.
Thank you, Victor. Good evening, commissioners. Let me share a few updates with you on the talent initiatives. We can go on to the next slide. The first update I want to give you is just a little bit more information from last month's career fair that we did that was hybrid, in person at the National Museum of the U.S. Army and virtually as well. A couple of points I want to highlight here. We did surveys out to the companies that participated and the job seekers, and across the top right there, you can see statistics. 62% of the job seekers says that this event helped them make connections that will lead to interviews or offers, which is great. 84% said very valuable career fair, and 94% said I'll participate in future. And then important on our company side, 100% of the companies that participated said we want to participate in future career fairs with you. We already have the January career fair where a large percentage of those have signed up. But a couple of other points I want to highlight here. Again, I think really emphasizing that the impact that Rod Williams is making as we've really kicked off our focus on hiring and bringing military and spouses into the market with 200,000 transitioning every year. The museum director, Rod and I went and met with the museum director and her staff last week at their request to build in official programming into the National Museum of the U.S. Army to do 2 of these a year. Where last time we just reserved the space and did an event. They said, look, you help bring traffic to us, you help get our veterans hired that we're transitioning out of Fort Belvoir. We want to do this and plug it into our official programming and invest with you, which is great. So we're down that path with them. And then today we had a conversation with Amazon that reached out to us again. It said, we want to do some custom events directly with you because you brought amazing talent to us. We filled a pipeline at this event last month. We've already made hires in a month. So that's a pretty quick transition. Amazon told us that today. So great results from that event that we look forward to replicating. Next slide. Also at the request of the Fairfax County Department of Health and the Long-Term Care Coordinating Council, we just did an event last week, another career fair focused on healthcare. Again, you can see we had Chairman McKay supporting us. He was in person at the museum. He did a video for us for this virtual event last week. I'll tell you, it had lower turnout than I would have liked, right around 100. But the companies were still greatly appreciative because they are struggling in this healthcare industry. Think about the assisted living facilities. This also is the urgent cares. This was Inova. This was a lot of organizations. And they were still pleased with this turnout to help them fill non-certified roles, like maintenance and receptionists and housekeeping and lots of things that really help make these organizations run. So still great feedback from our companies in a unique market that's really struggling right now. Next slide. We're engaging. You've heard it from others throughout the discussion here, but from the talent side, we're engaging the diverse talent. We participated last week at the Northern Virginia Chamber of Commerce. They had an event for women in business, leading diversity. Great event. Rod and I were there, and you can see had our banners, and we're sharing a lot of how to connect with our workinnorthernvirginia.com site and find the jobs with our companies here throughout the county. And then next slide. So tomorrow, last month you heard Robin Dombers from DCI, VP of Research, present the results from the Talent Wars report. We've asked her to come and brief our companies. So tomorrow, in partnership with NBTC and the Tech Talent Gap Committee, we're going to have her brief our companies tomorrow, and with a different slant, where she really presented with us and for you last month more of a here are the results. We've asked her to present the results, but then also recommendations. She's done a great job pulling together a presentation tomorrow that really highlights how our talent initiative and the programs and resources we have can help our companies attract talent. So we're working with, looking forward to that tomorrow. And as she wraps that, I'm going to focus on 2 things that you've heard a lot of tonight. And I appreciate Commissioner Partridge's question earlier around apprenticeships, because we're going to really drive home the point after this report on these companies needing to build apprenticeships into their strategies, and then those skilled through alternative routes. We're going to continue to drill that in until it starts to make an impact for our companies across the business. So that's for this evening. I appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you so much. Appreciate that, Mike. And I'm going to ask Alex to talk about a little bit of the work that he's currently doing with the county. So let me hand the mic back to Alex.
Thank you, Victor. Yes, I have 2 new areas of collaboration to talk about between us and the county. So I've joined the bond rating agency presentation team along with Christina Jackson and Joe, who was here earlier tonight, and other county leaders like Barbara Byron and Brian Hill, to present the financial condition and outlook to the rating agencies in order to have the ratings assigned to general obligation bonds. And I'll also be part of the team presenting on the tax district bonds that were presented tonight. As you all know, the county consistently receives AAA ratings, and these low interest rates save taxpayers hundreds of millions, really almost $1 billion over the past 4 decades due to sound financial management, strategic planning, and of course, our strong, diverse, and growing economy. So that's a section that we focus on and present is on the economy. And this year there's particular focus on COVID impacts and the condition of the office market. Unfortunately, we were able to talk with them about company announcements and economic indicators and analytics to help resolve or address some of those questions. We have a great story to tell because many companies followed through on their pre-pandemic investment plans, and we have had a number of new recruitments and major retention expansion projects. So our presentation, you could tell, very much stood out to them. Meeting with the analysts, they do not see success like ours everywhere they go, or very often at the level it's delivered in Fairfax. Only 48 counties in the entire country, less than one per state, carry the AAA rating. So it is a special honor to be part of the team presenting on behalf of the county and its credit rating. And secondly, I'm now part of an interdisciplinary team that's headed up by the county executive's office and Supervisor Palchik's office to develop alternatives for a Tyson's anchor or place management organization. Tyson's partnership is funded under a membership model, except for some one-time operating funds last year. And this fall, the county and the partnership stakeholders began to explore other models for this type of work. And so we're carrying that forward to refine some approaches and come up with recommendations to the Board of Supervisors after the new year. And the perspective that I bring to this conversation is that organizations like this can be particularly effective with their marketing and promotion and place activation for districts like Tyson's. And so tomorrow I actually get to meet with leaders from organizations like this in the Atlanta and the St. Louis region. So it'll be nice to get some national perspective. I feel like I know organizations that do this type of work locally, but it'll be especially interesting to hear how it's done in similar jurisdictions nationwide. And that's the end of my update. Thank you, Victor.
Thank you, Alex. Appreciate that. Now we're going to jump.
Do you mind if I just
Alan.
ask Alex a question?
Sure.
Sorry. No, I'm really curious about the changing landscape of Tyson's. Is it possible that they might transform it into like a bid or a business improvement district? Is that one of the options that are on the table?
So nothing's been predetermined in the process. It has been very organic in terms of having a authentic stakeholder conversation with the businesses in Tyson's, the existing members of the Tyson's partnership, and the county. I feel like the county has been brought closer because there is so much collaboration between the existing Tyson's organization and the county on areas like transportation and this type of place activation and even some marketing, as I mentioned, and the branding and things like wayfinding. So there is a nexus, and I think that there's just exploration, I would say, of partnership models or anchor development models of all types. Certainly bid is one that comes up often and you see throughout the region. So when you talk about Tyson's, you often hear comparisons to places like Noma or Capitol Riverfront or National Landing or even Roslyn in terms of the types of organizations that you might look at. That said, I think they really are committed to developing something that is custom suited to Tyson's and the particular community and stakeholders that have invested so much into the place and the planning and the place that it's become. So I think that I can't speculate on what the alternatives will be, but certainly models like that will be looked at.
Yeah, no, that's really exciting stuff. I'm really glad that you all and the EDA has a seat at the table. It's going to be really important. So thank you for doing that. Thanks, Victor.
Oh, you're welcome, Joe. No problem. Any other questions? We'll roll over to Alan. Alan?
Thank you, Victor. Good evening, commissioners and my colleagues on the call tonight. Well, we have had an incredible run in the last couple of months in terms of media outreach, and I am very excited to share a couple of what I can call true mic drop moments. Next slide, Andrew. So our bread and butter from a media outreach standpoint has always been company location announcements. And we had two very nice announcements in October. One was from an IT firm called Intact Technology, and another was from a satellite firm called SpaceLink. Intact moved from suburban Maryland last year, and SpaceLink is a subsidiary of an Australian firm. So we had a couple of nice storylines for both of these announcements, and we pushed them out and did very well with them. Next slide. So I'm pretty good with local media outreach, but what we really needed to do, what we still need to do, is push our messaging out nationally and, where appropriate, internationally. We brought our PR firm DCI in last year in 2020 to work with us on national media pitches to build awareness of the stories, build awareness and the brand of Fairfax County in Northern Virginia as a great place for business and talent. That was a real value add for us. And this fall, we've had several pitches that have really begun to bear fruit. For example, on this slide is a company called DRCE. As Veterans Day approached, we pushed out a story idea about this company, the Drivers Rehabilitation Center for Excellence, which is in Chantilly and was founded by 2 veterans, including one who was badly wounded in Iraq, to help wounded warriors and others learn how to drive vehicles that DCI customizes for them. Now, we sent this out nationally, and Fox News picked up this story and gave it great play on its website. Then the story got amplified by Yahoo and others. Now, Karen Sma and the communications team as well has worked with DRCI for years, and the founders were tremendously appreciative of the great work that we are doing for them, and that we were able to showcase this kind of company nationally. Next slide. DCI has also been looking for ways to promote angles around innovation ever since they came on board, and they were able to secure a spot on a Reuters webinar panel on clean energy for a hydrogen energy expert at Connected DMV, which Victor just mentioned a little bit ago. And as you know, Victor is co-chair of the team creating Connected DMV's regional economic development strategy. And hydrogen energy is one of the up-and-coming industry sectors that Connected DMV has identified as a great fit for the Washington area. So we were really excited to be able to get this guy on this panel that was actually represented international interests as well. It was really cool. Next slide. DCI has been pitching the transformation of Tysons into an urbanizing, transit-oriented, mixed-use hub. And as illustrated so well by the Capital One Center and everything that's happening there. So the pitch began to bear fruit when Axios did a story about how Tysons is leading return to office efforts regionally. And that's a lot of because of the emphasis that employers and Fairfax County is putting on the amenities that are going to attract employers and their employees to make it a true live, work, play, and learn destination. That story quoted Alex Imes, who you heard is deepening his connections about the transformation in Tysons. I look forward to telling you more about success with this Tysons pitch in the next couple of months. Next slide. So an element of the Tysons pitch is the focus on amenities to create a better experience for employees and residents alike. American City and County got this pitch and called to ask Victor about how the focus on amenities could create a better experience for employees and workers alike. And that resulted in Victor being quoted in this story about that. And that generated some nice social media attention too. Next slide, please. So here comes a mic drop moment. Another important pitch has focused on Victor, his personal story, his accomplishments, his thought leadership. And that story caught the interest of a writer for Fortune magazine who focuses on leadership. And our DCI team lined up an interview with Victor and that writer, and the piece appeared on the Fortune website last week. You see the headline on the piece on the left, focusing on Amazon and Northern Virginia. Remember, this is Fortune magazine, a national outlet. Then Fortune tweeted the story. You gotta love this, Victor's smiling face and the headline about the true job of a leader. Victor has preached this to his leadership team, and it was so great for me personally to see that called out in the tweet. Now, here's a second mic drop moment. Notice, I know it's small, but notice that Fortune has a Twitter follower of 2.2 million. It isn't every day or every month or maybe even every year that we get into the feed of a national outlet with 2.2 million followers. So we were doing cartwheels down the hallway when we saw that tweet. Now, we posted the story on at the EDA's LinkedIn page, and it had more than 2,300 views so far. We posted it on Victor's LinkedIn page, and it has had more than 6,500 views. Now, that is the power of media outreach and social media done right. Next slide. Now comes the big news from last week, the announcement that Qualtrics would expand in Fairfax County and create 400 new jobs. We recognize this opportunity as being huge. It's a well-known tech company. It's a true leader in its software sector. And as Commissioner Quigley said, it is a showcase company. And it has chosen to expand here. Now, this was no slam dunk. As we pointed out in the press release, the company had other choices, but the company chose Fairfax County. And all credit to my colleague, David Kelly, who worked so closely and successfully with the state to showcase Fairfax County to the company. So when it came time to make the announcement, we worked very closely with the company, the state, and the owner of the new space on the announcement that happened last week. We came up with a media outreach plan and a social media plan. The company and the FCEDA split up local outlets. DCI worked with national outlets. And my, oh my, did we make some hay. We had great pickup locally and nationally. And the company, I have to say, was super excited about the results. You can see a couple of the national outlets that picked up the story, as well as the Washington Business Journal. And now for another mic drop moment. Just how much hay did we make? Our independent media monitoring service, Critical Mention, tabulated $5.6 million in earned media value generated from the announcement. I just about fell out of my chair when I saw that, but really it was all about the amazing teamwork and preparation for the announcement. And as Sid Banerjee said, that is super sick, I thought. Okay, all right, next slide. So how are we doing this year with media outreach? Well, this is my final mic drop moment for tonight. Last week's results have pushed us to close to 400 pickups, more than 1 billion impressions, and just over 19 million in earned media value, according to Critical Mention. Next slide. Based on our marketing communication budget of about $1 million, that works on a return of investment of 19 to 1 so far this fiscal year alone. So it has been a really good fall for awareness and brand building for Fairfax County in Northern Virginia. And remember that if commissioners will remember that word cloud that DCI showed us 18 months ago. And the big word on that word cloud was unknown. We are working hard to remove that the next time that research is done. And so this big team here of communications and DCI, special events, talent, our business investment people, our marketing intelligence people, we are all working hard as one to get that down and not see that word unknown again next time. Of course, the work is never done, and I look forward to bringing you more great results as we enter the second half of the fiscal year.
Thank you, Alan.
And this is my last mic drop moment. I wanted to let all commissioners know that I announced last week that I would retire from the FCEDA after almost 23 years here in this job. Yes, I came in the second Eisenhower administration. It's been a great ride, and I have to say the last 2 years especially have been an amazing adventure and learning experience for me and a time of great growth. But it's time to hand over the marketing communications rocket ship to someone who can keep the momentum and find even more success. So I'll be here until April if Victor will have me. But I would like to take this opportunity during the commission meeting to thank all of you for your support and encouragement over the years. You were an amazing group. We're so lucky to have you. And Fairfax County is lucky and fortunate to have you all to be able to draw on this kind of leadership from its business community. And thank you and happy holidays. Victor, back to you.
No, let me just jump in here. I'm sorry. I'm just not going to let that go. Okay. When Victor and Alan were on the phone with me and Alan told me that, I said, no, it is not so. It can't be so. So I'm sure we all have that sort of gut-wrenching feeling like, oh, no. And of course, Alan, you've done a fabulous job, and whatever you do next, whether it's hiking or retiring or doing whatever you're going to do, I hope it, just is fun for you and that you have a great time doing whatever is next. But you've been phenomenal all these years, and we've watched your growth. I don't even know what to say about it. It's been phenomenal. So we will absolutely miss you. And we will definitely take advantage of every brain cell that you have from now through April. So do not worry about that.
Right.
I'm ready.
You're ready. You're ready.
I was going to say the same thing, Alan. Thank you. First of all, as the last board meeting, I know not of our fiscal year, but certainly of the calendar year, Alan, what a way, I know it's not your last meeting with us, but the last of this year. What a great time to announce this, because this is your Seinfeld going out on the high, right? You are
Leave on a high note.
You are leaving on a high note, my friend. And having worked with you closely through the years, and I sort of created the partnership and the marketing side, and we've done a lot of one-on-ones on that side. Just seeing your ability to continue to adapt for what this organization needs, and ultimately creating a ton of impact for this organization in this time. Certainly in the days prior to Victor, but really watching you continue to just take off as Victor's, shaped and worked with this organization, that you've just done stellar work here. You should be really proud of what you've done here, my friend.
Well, thank you so much. I'm indebted to you and to Kathy and Ron and every other member who's talked with me, worked with me, coached me, mentored me, offered new learning experiences for me. It's been a tremendous couple of years. And I really appreciate your kind words, James and Kathy, both. Thank you.
Yeah, Kathy, Alan and I came on board at about the same time. And I guess one of the things that we can say about Alan, that he is still as excited today as he was 20 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, and I think Victor has given him a chance to just spread his wings and grow. And so, Victor, we thank you for that, for allowing him the latitude to be creative.
Pleasure.
And Alan, I'm going to miss you so much. And we've been through so much together, hard times, good times. But it's nice that you're going to think about leaving us here to suffer by ourselves. We understand that. But I certainly wish you well as you move forward in your new endeavors. So God bless you and Godspeed. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dr. Johnson. I have so much loved working with you and appreciate your leadership of all of us. It's been tremendous. And I've learned a lot from that. And I'm not going anywhere yet, but you got me for 4 more months and it will continue to grow. And that's been a tremendous part about this job, is all the different experiences I've been able to have in the last couple of years have really been a tremendous experience for me. I feel like I'm more excited than ever. And so if I can go out like Jerry Seinfeld, well, I'm for that. That's amazing.
On a high note, George Costanza.
No, not George. Not George. I want to go out like Jerry.
I'm out of here.
Although that hat you were wearing at the dinner there, the lunch, and that hat was epic, I tell you.
Oh, there's a long story with that.
Yeah. Priceless hat. Priceless hat.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alan. And I just want to say before I hand the mic back to Kathy that really it has been spectacular the way that DCI has become part of our team, the way that they take the work of Kathy Riley and David Kelly and the rest of the national and the international team and really form it into what is our brand. It's not, people aren't vague on what Northern Virginia's brand is now, or that Northern Virginia exists. I mean, that's,
That's right.
that whole unknown thing was so uncomfortable for me to read, and I'm sure it was uncomfortable for everyone to read. But at this point, we really have a team that now is able to take what comes out and really amplify it. And I think that's really the most important part of our work now, figuring out how to continue to amplify the great work of all the team members. And with that, I'll turn it back over to Chair Lang.
Thank you so much. This has been a fabulous meeting tonight. All the content, all the presentations. I just personally am so proud of everybody on the team. It's amazing work, and we are really working together to get to the next level. So thank you, everybody, very, very much. And of course, thank you to the commissioners for your steadfast leadership and commitment. And with that, I want to wish everybody a very happy holiday and a very happy new year. And we will see you in January. And with that, I would like to ask for a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you. And a second?
Second.
Thank you very much. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And by consent. So with that, Andrew, your final words.
Thank you, Chair Lang. So that concludes the December 2021 meeting at the Fairfax County Economic Development Authority. I would like to thank everyone who joined us this evening for the meeting. And if any member from the public has not asked a question, please email Cheryl Martelli of the FCEDA. And for more information about the work of the EDA, please visit www.fairfaxcountyeda.org. Stay safe, be well, happy holidays, good night.